Good morning, everyone. This is Nicole. I'm back. I'm going to do follow-up videos for 7 seconds because I think it's a very good show coming from Netflix. Of course, I cannot show content other than trailers or images from the show itself. And what I did, instead of spending the time and energy writing original piece about this show and going episode to episode all the way from episode 1 to episode 10 in this season that's on Netflix, I decided to look for reviews that are already done and then give my commentary on their reviews, so I wouldn't have to go back and waste so much time watching the episodes again. I'm doing it this way. So I will link this article in the description box, of course. They have 3 different sites from this website called The Tracking Board, thetracking-board.com. So if you look at that URL at the top, it's www.trackingboard.com/7 seconds review episodes 1 through 4 /. And so every other episode they do 5 to 10 would be episodes 5 through 6 or 7 through 10, something like that. But I'll leave the link to this, and when I do episodes 5 to 10, I will probably come from this same site. So this is a picture at the top of the article of the father. And I forget this actor's name. He's a really good actor. You remember him from, he played with 50 Cent in the movie Get Rich or Die Trying. And I forgot his character's name there, but he was the one who turned on 50 Cent. I think he was the one who murdered 50 Cent's character's mother in that movie. So he plays a different role here. He plays a father who's grieving, but he also plays a father who is so stuck on religion that he can't see the trees for the forest. The tree being his son, the forest being all the confusion surrounding his son's murder. The police, the justice system, the courts, the hospital, the whole system is against him, and he thinks that one way to get out is by praying and running to Jesus. So I understand that condition, but I had a hard time respecting him in this show, his character in this show. I respected and that was by design, of course, because throughout the show I noticed how they negatively portrayed a lot of the black male characters and uplifted a lot of the black female characters, So, but the only black female character that was played on a negative role was the other woman in this picture, who was playing the assistant district attorney. And in the beginning, she was very, as I said earlier in the other video, very disorganized. She just needed to get her life together. Her life was just not, it was not where it needed to be. She had a lot of issues with her family. Her family did not really support her, and that was clear in this show later on. But I wanted to get into some of, like I said in the previous video, some of the character development. So that's why I'm stopping here at this image and discussing both of these characters, because the father in this story and this assistant district attorney were very critical to, I think, the development of the mother's heightened willingness to get revenge for her son's murder. So the father's willingness, his morality that he has, and then the fake morality that the assistant district attorney had in the beginning, their characters started to transform later on in the story. The mother began to transform into a more respectable character, I think, later on. So let's get into this article. They start out with a quote from Mike D'Angelo. If you watch the show, you know he was a New Jersey police officer. He's the big villain of the story. He's the open, outward villain of the story because of things he said, things that he did, and things that he allowed to be executed, the way he strategized, the things that he did. So he was the outward villain. We'll get to who the quiet villain was in a minute. So Mike D'Angelo said, quote, "They are the animals. We are nothing like them." Them refers to young gangbangers in a series that explores a, quote, what-if homicide scenario in our country's current climate of high tension between police and young black men. So already off the rip, you know it's going to be a lot of drama. This is a drama, action, conspiracy type of show that really indicated the detailed workings behind the scenes with the cops, with the so-called justice system, and how the parents were pretty much just left to fend for themselves, right? So it goes on to say the rookie cop, Peter Jablonski, hits a black teenager with his car, murders a black teenager with his car. And right after he does so, they skipped a part. Right after he does so, he's actually rushing on his way to see his wife, because his wife, she's pregnant. She's like 7 months pregnant. She is she's bleeding, she's spotting, and they don't know why. You know, maybe something's wrong with the baby. So he's rushing to get there. He hits Brenton when he's riding his bike, Brenton Butler. And instead of him getting out to try to see if something's wrong or figure out what was going on, he gets out, sees the bike, doesn't even go to look where the blood trail is to see if there's a body, see if the person's still alive. He calls for backup. So it shows you the calculated mentality of this person. Peter Jablonski is that hidden villain I was just talking about. So he calls 3 of his fellow cops. They're not just cops, they're vice cops. These are narcotics cops. Very specific type of police officer or detective. D'Angelo is the leader of the group, of this wolf gang. He tells them to cover it up. And when they get to the scene, one thing I want you to notice, when they get to the scene, the cop, Jablonski, is sitting in the front seat of his car. I think he had the door closed. Sitting in the front seat of his car. Brenton is over there off the side of the ditch, dying right now. Who knows how long it took them to get there. But he's sitting over there in his car, frustrated, mad, upset, you know, whatever emotions he's going through. Didn't even think to take his first aid kit, which I'm sure he had in a truck in his car, or he had a SUV. Didn't think to go try to assist him, provide any kind of medical assistance, nothing, even though he's trained to do so. Long story short, they leave the body sprawled out on the ground behind a snowbank, or we call it a ditch. So a very tall hill, and then you drop down about maybe 20 feet into a ditch. The amount of blood that drips out looks as if it covers acres, because there's no way you can miss that. I mean, the blood on the image of the show is actually the image from the episode. It's just blood. It's just spread everywhere. It almost looks like a bird with his wings spread out. That's how much blood was on the snow. So they leave his body. No other witnesses, as they know, it seems. And they're confident that they can just pin the dead body on someone else and all will be well. Everything's fine. So Jablonski goes on with his life. They say here he was resistant at first. He was resistant for like 10 seconds. DeAngelo says that this is the right thing to do because this quote-unquote accident could be turned into yet another black versus cop issue. Something he doesn't want to deal with, especially considering himself is a dirty cop. Now, Jablonski is a rookie in this narcotics gang, Wolfgang pack that they have. And so he doesn't really know the ins and outs and details of some of the people that he's working with. Neither does he realize that there's a reason he was chosen to be in this group. He doesn't understand it yet. And at this point, he doesn't understand. I don't think he understood that when he hit Brenton Butler and killed him, eventually he died on that bike, he was being tested when he called them and they gave him an ultimatum. Pretty much gave him an ultimatum. They told him, go see your wife. Do everything you're supposed to do. People ask you what you were doing out here. You tell them you're doing your job. You're a cop. You can do what you want to do. That's pretty much what he was telling him. And he was telling him these things, making these statements. Because one thing I noticed about Mike DeAngelo, he doesn't ask questions. He makes statements, very affirmative statements. And what you say next and how you respond, then he knows if he can trust you or not. So he was testing Jablonski to see if he could trust him in this case. And when Jablonski obliged and went along with what they were saying to do, which was to leave a black child on the ground in very cold temperatures, because it was like snow everywhere, very cold temperatures, to bleed out, to die like a dog in the road, like a possum or a raccoon in the road, on the side of the road, throw his bike over whatever, or I think one of them took the bike. One of the officers, dirty cops, took the bike himself. And you'll find out later in another episode why he took the bike. It wasn't just to get out the road. It's the reason why he took the bike. But it turns out that the black teenager named Brenton Butler was in a gang called the Kings. I don't believe that, but okay. And not only that, he was of high ranking. I didn't believe that either. Because of this, DeAngelo makes it very clear to Jablonski that he shouldn't beat himself up over covering up a murder because the kid was an animal, as he said. He literally said that he's an animal. Who cares? Like I just said, you hit this raccoon, good job. That'll teach the other raccoons to keep the hell out the street. That's pretty much what he meant. And in the mind of DeAngelo, tears and empathy would not be wasted on such things. I think he said to him, what you crying for? It's whatever. Like, who cares? Throughout the 4 episodes, Jablonski has serious moral conflicts. In the beginning, he did. About what he has participated in. He even visits Butler in the hospital wearing a hoodie and holding a crane that fell off the teenager's person. Butler's mother, Latrice, sees him and wonders what he's doing there, but Jablonski jets out of the room before he answers, only leaving the crane. And we'll get back to the crane in a moment. The crane came off his body. I think it was laying on the ground. He picked it up, a paper crane that Brenton liked to make. He loved birds. He loved making paper cranes. He loved painting in his room. He has this mural. If you go back and look at the trailer, you'll see there's this quick, like 1 second image of his room where he painted birds all over his room, over his wall, behind his bed. As Jablonski goes back and forth about turning himself in. Wait a minute, let me back up. Sorry about that. So Jablonski just killed this child. He's in intensive care right now. Parents are there. The uncle just came in from the military from overseas. He still has his uniform on. He's the dad's brother. They done invited the church group there to pray and give solace and some much needed support and comfort to the family. The deacons are there, the deacon wives, the church members are there, choir members, members of the community. They all leave, and then Jablonski shows up late at night with a paper crane that he got off the child's body. criminal returning to the scene of the crime. So think about that. What kind of person does that? As there's a theme in the show where Jablonski is the quiet villain throughout the whole show. As Jablonski goes back and forth about turning himself in, D'Angelo is right there to talk him out of it. Every step of the way, D'Angelo's like, nah, you ain't turning yourself in. Because he knows if he turns himself in, they all go down. You know, the whole police department probably will go down. And then this author of the article says, what bothers me about these interactions is that I, as a viewer, am probably expected to feel sorry for Jablonski. Poor rookie. He is being bullied to keep such a horrible secret. But I don't. And I agree with the author of this article. I don't either. Fuck him. I don't care. He is an adult man who has choices just like everybody else. Would he have been ostracized by his new cop buddies if he came forward? Of course. But not immediately. D'Angelo and the others, along with the judicial system as a whole, would find every possible angle to not have that white man convicted. A great example of how the system favors certain races over others is when the assistant prosecuting attorney, KJ Harper, who is a raging alcoholic and possible bedwench, not sex addict, she's a bedwench, suggests community service for a black teenager who committed her first offense. The judge interjects by sentencing him and putting him on probation after an X amount of time. Harper huffs about this because she was confronted with a white grocery store owner who let a white girl off for shoplifting because it was her first offense. See the difference? So we already know this. I don't know why the author, I'm assuming the author is non-black, but we already know how that works. That's the history of this country. So Jablonski is no hero by any stretch, and any writer of this series who wants me to feel empathy for him will be disappointed. Jablonski is the punk version of Ethan Hawke's character in Training Day. I agree. I hadn't even made that comparison, but yeah, I agree with that. While Ethan Hawke's character chose to do what was right in his spirit despite being almost murdered by his fellow cop, Jablonski not only chose to cover up the murder, he has now consciously turned into a bad cop. He justifies this 180 turn because he has a new baby and a household to take care of. Again, no empathy given to this man. Well, Jablonski may be feeling invincible at the moment, but the jig might be up soon. During Latrice's mourning period, she recalls seeing a white man in her son's hospital room, but she couldn't specifically identify him because he was wearing a hoodie, Jablonski, and he wore the hoodie because he knew the hospital had cameras. He did not wear a hoodie because he was cold inside a hospital. He did it because he knew there were cameras and he knew the parents would be there. He did not want to be identified. In her deep, dark grief, neither her husband nor her brother-in-law believed her. And one thing about a mother, anyone come around a child, especially when a child has been injured, they pick up on everything, every detail. So she remembered the dude wearing a hoodie. She remembered him leaving that crane on the hospital table at the foot of her son's bed. And she somewhat remembered his face. When you're under distress, there are a lot of details you remember. And your adrenaline's pumping so high, you don't remember it immediately. It takes time for you to go back, but it's stored in your subconscious. So in her dark grief, they didn't believe her because they thought she was just grieving. As she struggled to describe him, she was unkempt, visibly shaking and stammering all over the place. So she went to the police station. KJ was supposed to meet her there. She failed on that point. She failed originally when the first night occurred and she was speaking with the family with the other white male attorney. She failed there. She's dropping papers all over the floor. She smells like alcohol. She's saying we're going to get the maximum sentence. The mother asks, what's the maximum sentence for this? She says 3 to 5 years, as if that's something big. This lady's fucking up all over the place. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't even want to look in the room to see Brenton. So she's messing up all over the place. She sends the mother to a stenographer at the police department to give her description of the man who came to her son's room. The mother wants KJ to be there as moral support. KJ fails and doesn't show up. So that's what they said. She remembered the voice better than the face, and the sketch artist says, or excuse me, not stenographer, the sketch artist that's there says, "Ma'am, I can't draw a voice." And that's true. The best thing for the mother to do at that point was to go home and to get her thoughts together, get her spirit back in balance, because she was out of balance, and you expect that to happen. But I noticed another thing. The mother was forced to be strong throughout the whole season, the whole series this occurred. She was forced to be strong on her own. And that I did not like either. The father was so worried about maintaining the house, because you have to understand, they just bought a home. Brenton's family just bought a home, moved him. This is a better area for him, better school system. And the cop who killed her son had just bought a home with his wife and was about to have a child. So there's similar things happening with both families in that regard. But the mother, she has to go to work. She's a teacher. And in the beginning of the show, I think the first episode, when her son was dying out in the snow by himself, probably calling out for his parents, and no one answering him, she helped a young white student go to the park, drove her around to the park to find her brother while her son was dying. That's what she was doing. So she tries to go back to work. She's a good person. She's like, I need to go back to work. Maybe this will help me, get back to normal. She can't do it. She drives home. She sees some cops she stumbles upon some cops searching young black men. She surveys the scene, and she sees Jablonski in a hoodie, the same hoodie he had on at the hospital when he put that crane on that hospital table at the foot of her son's bed. She sees that hoodie. She just pulls over on the side of the street real fast and sees them roughing up some black guys who probably aren't doing anything, probably on their way home from school or something. Or they could be hoppers. They could be, out here banging. They could be selling drugs, whatever. But they harassing them to, no end. And she hears his voice. And that's what gives him away. Then she noticed the badge. And then she starts to think, what was a random cop doing in my baby's room? What was he doing in my room? No other cops came to give any kind of comfort or support to her family. He the only cop that showed up. So now she starts to think something is wrong. And she also starts to think he may have had something to do with my son's murder, or my son being put in intensive care. Harper would be able to answer that question if she knew what the hell was going on. But with new and incredibly credible information from the white girl shoplifter, who is also a junkie and now a criminal informant, it looks like the suspects in her murder case are also the ones helping her find out who killed Butler, because at this point he has died. Harper was on a hard search for a blue car, but the CI said that she was waking up from a high. She saw a black car with a red stripe at the scene of the crime. Harper saw that car and some photographs in her file, and when she flees to the police station to get some clarity from the girl, she spots the red striped car in the station parking lot. And serendipitously, D'Angelo and the rest of his hyenas jump into it. There go her perps right there. So there's a abandoned building across the road from where the murder occurred. And this young girl, I think her name's Naomi or Natalie or something. I think Natalie. She is a white hood rat. That's the best way to put it. She's a white hood rat from a upper class home. Her parents probably live on the Upper East Side somewhere. Very nice neighborhood, white conservative or white liberal. I don't know the difference anymore. Nice neighborhood. Mother could care less what happens to her. I think she's like 15 years old. She's out here on meth, heroin, you name it. Prostitution, she does it. Sucking dicks 6 ways from Sunday, okay? And she's a kid. So she's made her choice in life. Her parents have tried to give her everything, and that could be the reason why she's made these choices in life. But she witnesses this murder. She sees the blue Jeep, which is Jablonski's blue Jeep. She hears a loud crash. Then later on, she sees the black, I think it's a Mustang or Charger, with the red stripe on it. So now we know who the perps are. Like now we already knew, but now they know the same thing that the audience knows. So that at the end of the episodes, it's like, how will Harper deal with this? And as a woman who has a known record for alcoholism and sleeping around, how will she be able to pull back the curtain on this cover up? Because her reputation is very stained. Because D'Angelo makes a comment to her partner, who's also a lawyer, like, yeah, she basically fucked everybody in this building. I think he said it as a joke, just being hyperbolic, but he's like, have you fucked her yet? Everybody else done had her, whatever. That's how they talk about her, because she had an affair with the district attorney at the time. I think he was the assistant district attorney, and she may have been like a clerk or paralegal at the time. Now he's the big man, the district attorney. She shows up to his house in the middle of the night, wanted to discuss the case with him. His wife basically is like, why is she here? So you already noticed some issues. But it says at the end, 7 seconds is definitely interesting to watch, but it is disappointing that this is yet another series trying to humanize black boys. This story is for anyone who doesn't see the wrong in this scenario. So it says who doesn't see the wrong in this scenario. And I agree, because it is another series that's trying to humanize black boys. Not only humanize black boys, humanize black people in general. Because when D'Angelo speaks, he speaks in general about black people. He makes it very clear he don't care about niggas. And I'm not sure if he says that word in the show or not. I can't remember exactly. But that's basically his tone that he gives. Everything he does, he's like, I could care less about them. They're not human. But anyway, this is the first 4 episodes, a synopsis written by Jennifer. I'm going to go back up to the top. And I like this site because it doesn't give any videos, which would be, of course, flagged for me. That prevents me from getting in trouble with YouTube, although they're dealing with their own issues in San Bruno right now. Anyway, Jennifer Ford. Okay, so Jennifer Ford, she's a contributor of this website for this particular series, I believe. And she has a link here to keep up with all of her reviews. You can click that link if you'd like to. Oops. But that ends my review for the first 4 episodes. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comment section what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will talk to you all in another video. Thank you.